I'm here today.
You are. I can see
the intro left me out. Sean is not here today. Keely, you're sitting next to me. Max Brown, the quarterback, with us. And we're joined by the defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, to kick off the show. USC's DC interview is presented by I Trust Capital, Retire with Crypto. Coach, welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us. The story going into the Notre Dame game was their rushing attack, and you flipped the script on them. How'd you do it? What was the key to stopping their run game?
Yeah, it's like all things. It's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to actually go do it. I mean, it takes a collective effort of, all 11 guys, and how they do what they do. It's why they're successful at it. I mean, part of it, obviously, you circle the physical play that you got to match and you got to exceed, but you also got to have bodies where you need to have bodies. And I give the guys a lot of credit, kind of a commitment to, being where you're supposed to be. We've had those issues over the course of the year. I mean, and hopefully for our guys, as much as anything, it becomes a visual. Say, wait a second, if we combine, discipline play with a level of physicality, then you got a chance to be successful. It's not magic on either side of the spectrum, and so was certainly fairly pleased with the guys on Saturday.
Michael Mayer was the guy you described as the best tight end in the country. How do you think you guys fared against him on Saturday? Yeah, I mean,
probably pretty average, quite frankly. I mean, he knew he was going to make some plays. I think the verdict's still out in terms of what we can be from a pass game standpoint, and unfortunately we're running out of time. You got to. There's two options. If in the man coverage situation, you got to win your one-on-one. You're not going to win them all. We got to win more. And if you're in a zone coverage concept, you're not just strictly, covering space and hope they throw in completions. And so, was it good enough to obviously get the win? Certainly was. But no, we got to move the needle. We got to move the needle this week.
The turnover margin for this team is getting out of control. I believe it's plus 22 now, which I'm assuming that's the highest you've ever had as being a part of it. And a big reason why is obviously the defense getting turnovers and whatnot. We say opportunistic. You can't say luck when you're doing it every single week. What do you attribute that just turnover spirit to defensively?
Well, I'll take over the show here. This will be the last thing we talk about, because this is a number of different things. One is, the term luck and is it lucky if they score a touchdown? Certainly, nobody says it is. And the ball doesn't know where it's supposed to be. It doesn't know it's supposed to stay in the running back's hands, the quarterback's hands. It doesn't know it's supposed to go to a specific wide receiver. And so we have to make sure that we understand the opportunity that lies on every single play of football. And we talk that way. And everybody emphasizes it in their own way. And no one talks about it more than us. We say takeaways equal victory because they do. If it was something else, we talk about that. And we've been doing it. Since the minute we walk through the door, and we keep track of those things. It's one of the conversations we have every week at halftime. What's not what the scoreboard reads, but where are we at from a takeaway standpoint? Because we know ultimately it's going to have an impact on the game. We did a study. Again, I'm going to take over the show. We did a study.
Please
let it go.
Just the NFL preseason, and it's probably the greatest kind of blind study that you could have, because you have no idea who's on the field. Some people are playing their starters. Some people are playing their backups. What does the impact of turnover margin have in meaningless games when nothing's equated? You have no idea who's on the field. And I think, I forget the exact number, it was like 25-5 or 28-8 just in preseason NFL football. Those teams have won the turnover margin. So a little bit of evidence, takeaways equal victory, and we talk about it. We show them NFL takeaways every Thursday. We have a takeaway meeting. It's the last film that we watch of the opponent turning the ball over on Saturday mornings. It's an emphasis, and part of it goes back to when Steve Kerr got the head job at the Golden State Warriors. It's kind of okay. What can you circle and say we're going to get better at, and dial into something as small as you possibly can. And for them, it was passes. Try to lead the NBA in passes, and the impact that can have obviously on winning. All this is tied into winning. It sounds good, but and so that's kind of been. As we've taken over defenses, is saying, okay, what's our impact on winning and losing football games? And we can circle that and circle it and highlight it, and it proofs in the pudding.
Sure is. Turnovers have been plenty this season. You're listening to the defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, on Trojans Live, and you got a big guy back in the middle of your defense. Eric Gentry finally looked more himself, look healthy out there. What impact does that have that your defense has really gotten healthy here for the biggest games of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's all hands on deck. I mean, it's as you go through it, we're trying to find those guys that can have an impact. You're looking for guys that can play at a consistent level, but along those same lines is plays have to be made. What Saturdays can't be is the offense makes plays we have mistakes. The offense has plays. We have mistakes, and then hopefully they have a couple more mistakes and we can get off the field. I mean, there's a combination there. In so many ways, it's a game of mistakes, but there's also a game of making plays. And when we've had our biggest issues, it's a combination of whether it's a mental or a physical error, and then at a stretch of time where a play's not being made. And so he's one of those guys that's had an impact for us when he's been healthy. He'll keep getting better. We need him to. He's got to rise up this week. You take 4 or 5 weeks off. I mean, that's a tall order. But so his best football, I mean, we can, big picture wise, is he has a chance to be an outstanding player, and we need to be, kind of touch that this weekend.
Along those same lines, it seems like the corner position opposite of Mackay is still getting some rotation. What do you want to see from that role?
Yeah, consistency. I mean, I think if you, by and large, any position on the defense right now, if you said, okay, what's the chief issue? It's consistency. It's having a spring ball meeting in November. And what does that mean? That means we're saying the same thing that we said in. Now, what does that say about us as coaches, right? So I'm not just throwing stones at guys. It's so that's something that we all have to take ownership in. Why can't we do the things we say we're going to do on the practice field, do them on the practice field, and then obviously execute at a high level come Saturday. And obviously the opponent gets a vote. It's very difficult to. It's one thing to say. Again, it's harder to do. But no, just from a consistency standpoint, once again, you got to make plays when the ball's in the air. We can't play with 10. And I don't want to circle one position group, but there's been too many opportunities over the course of this season where you're 9 guys and 2 watching football. You don't participate, you play. And so we got to make sure that we're finding some production from guys.
You're playing a team this upcoming week for the second time, and with that comes a whole 4 quarters of game film where you can watch and evaluate, but then they get to do the same thing. How do you evaluate that trade-off when you're going up against a team for the second time in one season?
Yeah, and we have a little bit of experience from a staff standpoint in the Big 12. That always happened, and so a couple of things. Number one, it had absolutely no impact on the second game. I mean, on the positive side, on the negative side, certainly there's some common things that maybe happened in the first that happened in the second. But if they had played someone else week whatever when we played them, that would have been on film as well. We would have seen and had a chance to study and so on and so forth. The biggest thing, regardless of opponent, is and this is been very fortunate. This will be the 6th time playing in a conference championship game now in 4 different conferences, and the only commonality between any of it has been you have to play your best football. You do not backdoor yourself into a championship at the end of in this case a Friday night. I mean, the best version of every single guy in this roster has to be on display in Las Vegas on Friday, and maybe on the positive side, you say, well, I don't know if we played our best game, and we're running out of time. It'd be a hell of a time to do it.
Last one, Coach. Later on in the show, we're going to talk to Tuli Pulotu. He's having an absolutely outstanding season. Is locked in already being a first team All-American. He leads the nation in sacks. When you showed up, he was already here. What were your sort of impressions of him on film, and how did you approach his season going in? And what do you think of the return?
Yeah, I mean, I'll light up talking about Tuli. I'm telling you, I got very few smiles in me, but I'll and that keeps him around longer. I'll do whatever it takes. But I mean, just a guy, man. I mean, an absolute stud in every way. He, from the moment we walked through the door. I mean, he's been every workout, every practice. We had a real issue with we knew every injury based on how a guy walked into the meeting. Slumped shoulder, he had a shoulder, ankle, knee, all that. And anyway, we've slowly worked through some of that stuff. And then the opposite side of the spectrum is this guy that all he does is go hard. All he does is work his tail off. He leads from the front. And then you get into obviously the fall and just playing at an exceptional level. And then there's been a couple times on game day asking, what do you like Tuli? And he doesn't care. It doesn't. it has, been a couple times dropping into coverage, and I mean he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world, and I do too because he did a nice job of it. But no, he's big time. I mean, it's almost, as you talk to scouts and media over time, he's almost in his own category, which I think we got to be. in that, okay, the guys look at him and say, okay, let's do it like Tuli. I think they kind of, I can't do it like him. And we need them to think, that certainly they can. And in many cases they can't. But let's don't keep the truth in the way. But he's awesome. I mean, I'm glad he's reaping some of the benefits of it, and he will continue to do so. And he's going to be a big piece this weekend.
He sure is. He's coming up later on the show, but this weekend is USC versus Utah. Pac-12 championship game. It'll kick at 5 o'clock on Friday night. We will go on at 3 p.m. with our Trojan Tailgate Show. Thank you to the defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch. He's got to get to work.